NASCAR teams threaten to hold out from the Netflix series, that is, until a new charter deal is reached. Let's break down the latest reports and more. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. We've made it. It's race week, Richmond Raceway, just a few days away. Though this past weekend, the final off weekend for the NASCAR schedule, that is, still provided plenty of great short track racing featuring some rising stock car racing stars. You probably saw the dramatic ARCA finish at Elko Speedway, lightning striking in the distance, William Sawalich, LeVar Scott, three wide photo finish across the line. Sawalich gets his fifth ARCA win in 8 starts this year. Really dramatic stuff. The 17-year-old driver is racing full-time in ARCA East, but there he only has 1 win in 6 starts. Connor Zilisch, his 17-year-old Chevy counterpart, has 4 wins. I believe both of these teenagers have very bright NASCAR futures. Zilisch, Sawalich, we've already seen them banging door to door. Remember Iowa earlier this summer? Really good stuff. It's fun to see actual rivalries developing between young drivers who will likely follow each other through the ranks. ARCA wasn't the only great short track race this past weekend. Many of y'all probably saw the Cars Tour race at North Wilkesboro. A lot of NASCAR names in the field. It was Trayton Lapcevich getting his first career Cars Tour victory over second place finishing Corey Heim. Carson Kvapil, who's stood out in select Xfinity starts this year, was 4th, and Brendan Queen, Butterbean, who's looked real sharp in trucks, finished 5th. Kevin Harvick was in the field. He finished 11th. Up-and-coming racer. Think he's got a bright future. Brent Cruz scored a top 10. He's been getting a lot of talk lately. Potentially one of those next big things, making the transition from dirt to asphalt. Good stuff. Great stuff. And speaking of dirt to asphalt, might as well mention Kyle Larson. He's not exactly an up-and-coming star, but he put on a show at I-55 Raceway. World of Outlaws feature, drove from 21st to 1st, took advantage of some shenanigans on the final lap to win in a photo finish. Man, 2 photo finishes this weekend. Even World of Outlaws, it's the year of the photo finish. Beyond just motorsports, if you've been watching the Olympics at all in recent days, better have your cameras out. These finishes have been spectacular. So no NASCAR this past weekend, but plenty of great short track racing here in the States. Lots to watch for. But now NASCAR is back in business. And speaking of business, that's the focus of today's show, the business of NASCAR. Adam Stern, Sports Business Journal, published 2 articles this week, one last night, one this morning. We will touch on both. They're both linked in the description below. I encourage you to check them out because we're just going to scratch the surface here today. First, the SBJ reports that NASCAR is planning to produce a second season of NASCAR Full Speed, their Netflix docuseries, but some teams don't seem keen on participating without a new charter agreement in place. Adam Stern writes, while some teams have considered not participating in a documentary if a deal isn't done by the playoffs, others disputed that they would hold out, and it is possible the sides could still find a resolution before the playoffs begin. Some teams may not participate. That could mean anyone, but I guarantee you it includes 2311 Racing. Why do I say that? Well, because last year, the first season of Full Speed, 2311 granted more access than any other team in the garage. Denny Hamlin damn near let Netflix follow him into the bathroom, for goodness sake. Denny Hamlin was the star. He made himself the star. Without Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, love him or hate him, Full Speed would not have been as engaging. I think 2311 knows that, and right now the teams are desperate for any sort of leverage. That's the only reason you'd consider holding out from this kind of project, because why else would you turn down effectively free advertising? NASCAR Corporate is paying millions of dollars to broadcast your team on America's largest streaming platform. Why on earth would you turn that down unless you could dangle that over the sanctioning body during tenuous revenue negotiations? So that's part of why I feel some teams mainly means 2311. Sure, there could be some other teams involved, but 2311 has been the most vocal by far throughout this entire process. A few months ago, Michael Jordan told the New York Times, NASCAR will die if charters aren't made permanent. Just a few weeks ago, Denny Hamlin said that some of the recent proposals NASCAR has sent the teams are the worst yet. I'm sure there are other teams that agree mostly with 2311, but I think it's safe to say Denny Hamlin, Curtis Polk, MJ, they're at the tip of this spear. They know they need leverage, and pulling some of the biggest stars out of the Netflix show, that will certainly get NASCAR's attention. But that was the first part of this two-part Sports Business Journal report. Adam Stern also wrote about private equity funds and sports groups circling NASCAR teams. He references the recent deals between Trackhouse and Avenue Sports Fund, Joe Gibbs Racing selling off a minority stake to Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment. Stern mentions that the Steinbrenner family, who owns the New York Yankees, could be interested in buying into a team. He also references Andretti Global. Stern says his sources are watching Andretti and Spire very closely, which makes sense. They're already tied together by Gamebridge. And if you watched this show last week, we played a clip of Andretti president J.F. Thorman saying that the team hopes to go NASCAR racing soon. So you put two and two together, I think Stern's sources are right on the money. Naturally, this report also mentions Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Junior Motorsports. Could Dale and Kelly be persuaded to go Cup Series racing if the right investment group partners with them? This all appears to be purely speculation on Stern's part, but this is just me talking. The short answer is probably yes. If the perfect partner came along, I'm sure JRM would consider it. Dale Earnhardt Jr. strikes me as being very risk adverse, which I think is smart. But he may be willing to relinquish some control if that means some other partner is willing to take on more of the financial risk. Like, I could see that compromise being made. So again, this is a huge if. If the perfect situation comes along, sure, Junior Motorsports could one day go Cup Series racing. But at this point, it continues to just be strictly a hypothetical. And like I've said before, as fun as it would be to see maybe the 88 racing on Sundays once again, I wouldn't want it to come at the expense of the team's Xfinity Series program. Right now, Junior Motorsports plays an extremely important role in the current NASCAR ecosystem. I would hate to see them break from that. There was one more part of this Sports Business Journal report. Stern tweeted this, so I'll just read the tweet. Caught my attention, caught many others' attention. He posted, new rules that NASCAR has included in charter drafts around private equity include a prospective ban on sovereign wealth funds, which would prevent the likes of Saudi Arabia's public investment fund from investing in teams for the duration of the deal. That is very interesting. I'm sure a lot of NASCAR fans will actually appreciate that ban, though I wonder how the teams feel about it. Although again, none of these proposed charter drafts have been agreed upon, at least not yet. So there are plenty of other details outlined in these SBJ articles. I will link them both once again down in the description below. I encourage you to check them out. But my final reaction, in conclusion, will a deal get done? I would say these two SBJ articles paint a much more positive outlook than other recent reports and quotes. You wonder if maybe the 2-week break allowed both sides to get closer to the same page. Again, I think the teams are desperate for leverage. Pretty much everyone in the industry agrees at this point that NASCAR holds most of the cards. And the tough part for the teams, they want those permanent charters. Without permanent charters, we're not going to get long-term investment. They say that while at the same time we've seen Gibbs, Trackhouse, and Spire take on outside investors in recent months. So, I agree with guys like Michael Jordan and probably most of 2311 that if charters are made permanent, we'll see even more outside interest. There'll be even more investment, even more money pouring into the teams. I agree. But to say that there's no outside interest right now without permanent charters is also incorrect. There clearly is still some interest. And it makes sense as to why. Like we've discussed in the past, owning a NASCAR franchise, if you will, is way cheaper than most every other major sports league in America. NASCAR Cup charters have sold for $20 to $40 million the past couple of years. $40 million is the absolute max anyone has reportedly paid. $40 million, that sounds like a lot, right? Well, I looked this up. The Oakland Athletics are probably the least valuable Major League Baseball team. They're still valued at well over $1 billion. I live in the Dallas area now. We have FC Dallas, a Major League Soccer team whose estimated value is $500 million. Shoot, the average WNBA franchise, which granted has become more relevant in recent months, is still valued at $100 million. It's more than double what anyone has paid for a NASCAR Cup Series charter. NASCAR is pennies compared to many of these other sports leagues. So if you're an outside investor, we talk all the time about how expensive racing is compared to other sports. It's a lot cheaper to get in and potentially has a very high upside. That's why, despite the lack of permanent charters, despite the lack of a long-term charter agreement, there continues to be outside interest. I agree with Jordan and 2311 that with permanent charters, a better revenue split, oh goodness, interest could explode. We could see dozens of new groups and owners and investors buying into teams, pumping up their pocketbooks. That's absolutely possible, but even without a charter deal in place, we're still seeing interest. That's why, again, when we talk leverage, I think the teams are kind of having a hard time. That's why when the Netflix show news comes out, the teams jump at it because there's an opportunity to seize some leverage, perhaps. And that's what this all comes down to. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Who budges first? Does anyone budge ultimately? What gets done and when, if ever? Thanks for watching this video, y'all. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more NASCAR content and commentary every single day, and a big thank you to my very generous Patreon supporters. You can probably hear my voice is starting to die because this is the second time I've recorded this episode today. The first one, I did the whole thing and then realized I was out of focus, and I like to pay attention to those finer details, so sat down to re-record. That's the tough part. Kind of a one-man band over here. I don't have a cameraman, don't have a producer, don't have writers. It's just me. So when I make a mistake, I pay the price. Gonna go rest my voice now. Not really a tea drinker, but maybe today is the day I give it a shot. Thanks for watching, y'all. I will see you again soon. Have a great rest of your Monday.